I'm sorry. Okay? I'm sorry. 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 I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, okay?
Hi, everyone. Welcome to I'm Sorry, Okay? A podcast where we are watching so much Degrassi. I'm Mary here with Paul and LD. This week we watched Season 1, Episode 1 of Degrassi Junior High, Kiss Me, Steph. This episode was written by Jan Moore and directed by Kit Hood and originally aired on January 18th, 1987.
Hey, y'all.
Hey.
Hello.
So I was not even a month old when this episode originally aired.
Wow. I was about a year and a half, it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
I was already 38.
Paul's a vampire. Okay, so should we do a quick little summary from this episode?
Yeah, hit me with a summary.
Please.
So the summary is courtesy of TV Guide.
That's where I get all of my information.
It's where I get my best information. So determined to prove she's grown up, Stephanie campaigns for class president by trading kisses for votes.
Is that the full summary?
That's a full summary.
I mean, these episodes are pretty, like, that really is all that happened, right? Did anything else happen?
It piqued my interest.
There's a full B plot in this episode, as there is in every episode. And they did not even acknowledge, much like the show itself, that Arthur exists.
True, but they know what we're here for. And it's the kisses.
I mean,
much like the campaign itself, the episode summary is highlighting the most important aspect of the campaign process.
So I think the thing that intrigued me most about the Kisses for Votes concept was I'm dying to know why a bunch of boys in 8th grade think that kissing a girl on the cheek is like equivalent to like making out. Because they're all like lining up to kiss this girl. She's not kissing them.
High-fiving about it.
Yeah, like they've done nothing.
Right, she's receiving the kisses and also receiving the votes.
She's kind of figured out how to, I don't know, really harness this system.
Yeah, as a former 8th grade boy, I saw no problem with that system. That tracked for me. I was able to put myself in that place.
And it may say something about either the time that we grew up in or the subsequent like teen dramas we've watched since then, that I kept expecting things to escalate to a much darker place than they went to. So the kissing on the cheek, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it was just like nice, wholesome fun. I feel like there's going to be several conversations throughout the Degrassi Junior High episodes where we're expecting something much more sinister to come, and it doesn't come because this was before teen dramas were like murdering each other and like, you know, then
right.
I don't know, sleeping with someone's dad. So
they're not quite ready to different. They're not quite ready to go there yet.
No, they're not going there yet.
We'll go there later. So Degrassi Junior High. The series opens with Stephanie walking up to school and Arthur running up behind her yelling her name. So in this kind of intro, we learn that they're siblings, but their parents are divorced. Steph is living with their mom and Arthur's living with their dad. Stephanie would prefer to keep their relationship a secret because Arthur's grade 7 and she's grade 8. And he also mentions that they have the same last name, so people would know that they're related. But she tells him in this very moment that she has changed her last name to K, just like their mom.
Harsh.
Which seems a little harsh that her brother didn't know that. Does her father know that?
I really appreciated that this opens up with very clear expository dialogue of like, I live with mom, you live with dad, and like they're obviously like they're explaining it to us, but also to each other.
Right. Yeah.
And they're explaining to us now why these two are never going to have any crossover unless it's very intentional. because they're very separate siblings. And I think that the idea of them, the thing that I love about Degrassi, I think, is that they have so many representations of like what family is, but I don't know anybody where the siblings were split up amongst different parents.
That feels like its own story.
Yeah, I want more
I-
information.
It would make more sense if their parents had if they were step siblings and then their parents got divorced and then they only saw each other on the weekends. I have kind of heard of people where like if a kid is struggling in one home, they might go live with the other parent, but the other sibling might stay with, you know, the other parent. But yeah, it was kind of a weird setup that like she went with her mom and he went with his dad, and then they only see each other on the weekends, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of communication in between. And I guess we don't know what caused the parental split. So there could be more there where they're kind of taking sides of the parents.
This is true. I think right off the bat they're just showing us the very different worlds that Stephanie and Arthur are going to inhabit.
Well, I mean,
And-
and namely that Arthur's a nerd, right? Like,
Yeah,
she
oh,
didn't
yeah.
say it, but like, she doesn't want to talk to that kid because he's a nerd. That's mainly it.
Yeah, it's definitely, she's very clear that she is completely starting over in this episode, and I want to know what 7th grade Stephanie was like. And I get the idea from, you know, when she sees Vula for the first time, and Vula's kind of dressed very conservatively, and Steph is in her sort of like acceptable outfit that she's left the house in, that she comes to school in and then takes off to reveal her kind of like more mature clothing. You kind of get the idea that her and Vula up until now have probably been on like really similar footing in terms of like,
Right.
you know, their kind of outward presentations. And now she's decided she's going to pivot away from that. And it just, I mean, I don't know, I always noticed when someone at school, especially if it like junior high, there's so many fewer kids than in high school, like you always notice when people do stuff like that.
Yeah, I think for me it was probably 6th grade. I like started dressing goth, and there was a definite like separation from the friends that I had to like new friends, and it was weird to the friends that I had previously that I like started dressing that way. But I think that like middle school, well, what we would say middle school is like generally, yeah, when you start to kind of like move apart based on the aesthetic that you're sort of getting into, and then you tend to like dress like your friends. So yeah, they're kind of in that like in between stage of like changing, and we don't really know like what prompted Steph to start making this change other than the fact that it's 8th grade. Well, we'll
8th
get
grade,
there.
baby.
Yeah, it's
Let's
8th grade now.
so next we are in the girls' bathroom, where we will frequently find ourselves with Stephanie and Vula. And Stephanie gives Vula some silver bracelets, just kind of being like, hey, we're best friends, here's some bracelets. And the girls are talking as Steph starts taking off her oversized button-down and oversized skirt to reveal a crop top, I guess, and leggings. This look was very like Sandy from Grease, like Sandy's makeover in Grease, which did come out before this. Grease came out in 1978.
Yeah, it definitely predates. I had the exact same like, oh, this is the sexy Sandy look.
Yes.
And then my question though was like, does this school not have a dress code? Because the stuff that Steph is wearing, even just in this episode, like I cannot imagine. I mean, when I was in 8th grade, I mean, I was just wearing like jeans and a Blink-182 t-shirt, but yeah.
As
And
we
I
all
think,
wear.
yeah,
But
and
was it a baby doll t-shirt?
yes, it was. It was baby blue, and it had a glittery butterfly on it.
Oh yeah.
Because I was still engaging with, you know, performative femininity, and it wasn't until I got to high school that I was like, oh, I can actually just not do that. But my like cool outfit was like a Blink-182 shirt, and then like a black skirt and red and black striped tights, which is just a very obviously very good look. But I never saw anybody in middle school dressed like Steph. And It's not even to say she shouldn't dress like that. It was more just like, wow, I'm very surprised that in 1987 is just fine.
I was also surprised that I was surprised at her sexy look. Like, I just assumed that it wouldn't really be, like that shocking. Not that I was shocked by it, but I was, because would you even call that a crop top? Like, what would you call this top? It's like, because later on she does wear a tube top.
It's kind of a bandeau top, no?
A bandeau,
or
yeah.
Is it? Like, because it's got
It's got sleeves.
But she pushes them down, they're off the shoulder,
right.
And then she kind of pulls the top up a bit. And so it really just becomes like a singular kind of, I don't even know. I don't know what this garment would be. I think it is just commonly referred to as a shirt. But
I've got to say, I enjoy all of Stephanie K's looks. Like, there's
same.
some good looks, but it is surprising to see at school just because I think we're probably used to being a little bit more policed in what we wear. So I'm kind of like, were the 80s less restrictive in what you were allowed to wear in school? Or is it just because it's like on TV?
It's a good question. I mean, it kind of had like a Kelly Kapowski vibe. Because Kelly Kapowski, I felt like, was on Saved by the Bell, was always wearing like kind of crop tops and really tight pants. So I don't know, maybe that was just allowed. Maybe they didn't start policing young girls' bodies until later.
They could also be like leaving it open for like they're gonna depict her dressing this way, and then eventually they'll get to like the radish crackdown on like what girls wear. I'm sure we'll get that episode at some point.
And I do think my general impression is that adults were a bit more standoffish in the 80s. And as we'll see in like these episodes, the adults don't seem to be super involved in what the kids are doing at school.
Yeah, I've got a lot of questions.
Maybe they're just, they're just kind of letting them all do their thing.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, in this scene, right, like, I think that Vula is sort of meant to be the audience proxy, and she is, like, we're supposed to be shocked with her that Steph is dressing this way, and I think Vula's a little bit of a slut-shaming friend, a little bit, but I also think that she's a little bit like, I sort of also see her concern because, like, oh, this is a very sudden change.
Yeah.
So
she's shocked. She's more shocked than anything else, I feel like.
And it's a shocking reveal. She's lying to her parents. Steph is leaving the house one way and then dressing a different way at school. So she's kind of starting to live this like double life. And so I think that there's a lot of layers where Vula is concerned, but also like we see that Vula's parents are maybe a little bit more conservative, and she's maybe internalized some of that messaging about not growing up too fast.
Did you guys ever?
Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say Steph's whole like mantra is, "This is grade 8, and we're supposed to be more mature, so I'm gonna start dressing more mature."
Did you guys?
You're literally a child in 8th grade.
Did you guys hide any garments from your parents growing up, or was that just me and Steph?
What did you hide?
So I had a Marilyn Manson T-shirt that I hid from my mom. And that was how I learned how to do laundry. But then also a friend of mine made me those really cool armband, those like how would you describe those? The things that go all the way, they're like gloves, but they go all the way up your arm to your elbow, kinda.
Oh my, like evening gloves.
I guess so. A friend of mine.
Yeah, but like you would like cut the ends off of toe socks and like make little like wrist covers. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't really feel like explaining that one to my parents, so I would just hold on to those until I got to school and put those on and eyeliner on.
Oh, so you were having like a Steph moment at school.
You were doing your makeup in the bathroom.
I did it in the car.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I like photoshopped you into the Degrassi girls' bathroom.
Unfortunately, me doing makeup in the boys' room would not have been a safe activity.
It
I
was
don't
not
think.
a meeting place for changing and doing your makeup.
Nope.
I am very much like, because I think we're about to meet LD, the character, and I feel a lot like her. She's so butch.
She looks awesome.
She's so butch.
There is a real diversity of like styles among the characters, which is cool.
Yeah, they were all doing their own hair and makeup on the show.
Which
So,
is
like,
probably why they actually all look different.
yeah, and actually look their age, because they're not being styled
Yes.
to look like tiny little adults. They're, they didn't want to have hair and makeup on the show, like, like a department for it. They wanted everyone to not look too smooth or too polished. They wanted them to actually look like middle schoolers. So I kind of, I'm always like, oh, that's so cool. Like Spike's hair was actually like that.
That amazing. And Stephanie, she also puts on makeup, but her whole look, honestly, she doesn't look older than she is, I don't think. I think she still looks, the same age as like the other kids.
Yeah, she looks like she's in 8th grade and putting makeup on kind of for the first time, or she's kind of just learning about what makeup is.
So also while we're in the bathroom, we hear an announcement about class president, and the announcement is only directed at the guys in the school, which offends Steph. So she's got some feminist like vibes going on here. And she's kind of like, why is it only the guys that are, being encouraged to run for president? And so she's kind of looking at herself in the mirror. She's clearly dressing this way in an effort to get attention. I don't know if she knows what kind of attention she hopes to get, but she's doing this at school to present herself in a certain way. So I think when she hears the announcement, she's like, okay, here's a way to get more attention. I could run for president. And Vula agrees that she should run because she's like, you should do it. You're popular.
I kind of love that sort of legacy position on Degrassi, and you'll see it from junior high all the way to next class, that's literally all it takes to be class president. I love the idea that like Steph is like, she's kind of a second wave feminist, and she's ready to like kind of girl boss her way to the top of the social ladder.
I mean, and even outside of Degrassi, really being popular is clearly all it takes to hold political office, as we're finding out. So,
I mean, do either of you remember who was class president?
I have no idea.
I have no idea who our class or school. I don't even know. Was there a class president or a school president? I don't remember. I thought it was per year.
No idea.
I don't remember anyone campaigning. I don't remember anyone in the position. I don't remember them doing anything in the position.
I never voted.
No one was letting me kiss them to vote them into the presidency. That's all I know.
Yeah. No one promised me a kiss for my vote.
Yeah, I too have never received kisses for votes. And I feel that may be what was lacking from my middle school experience.
I definitely would have been more politically engaged.
With the promise that you get to kiss cute girls. I think we all would have been more politically engaged with the promise of kissing cute girls.
Yeah, man. I would have been making those posters.
You would have gotten your stencils. Okay. So we'll get to the poster making. So after we leave the bathroom, we see Joey actually in the school now. He's kind of wandering around looking for his first class, and Arthur, and he runs into Joey. And I think this is our introduction to Joey Jeremiah, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
It is.
Yes, and so he acts like he's gonna help Arthur find his class, only to lock him in a closet and prank him.
And call him a broomhead.
Oh yes, and call him a broomhead. So do we have
our
first broomhead? What exactly do we think a broomhead is?
I looked it up on Urban Dictionary, and the explanation was it is only used in the TV show Degrassi. The definition was very explicit about that. And it's just their word for idiot.
Amazing. And I think we'll see that a lot on Degrassi, that they tend to create their own versions of things, which is, I don't know, it kind of, it creates a Degrassi language.
The Degrassi universe.
Gotta build that universe. So we get to first period with Raditch for the grade 8s, and Joey immediately goes over to Stephanie at her desk and says, "Hey Steph, remember me? Joey Jeremiah, Playboy, at your service. Wanna play?" And he raises his eyebrows up and down, and somehow nobody pukes or looks disgusted at all by this behavior, which I found disturbing.
Who amongst us hasn't introduced themselves this way?
I only introduce myself this way, but Vula actually, I think, gives a look that was kind of like, oh, did you think you could dress this way and not get treated like this? Like she had kind
yes,
of,
I
she's got a
absolutely
pretty,
There's a
that.
look. Oh, I
Yeah.
missed the look.
oh yeah.
So the look is directed at Stephanie though, not at Joey.
Yeah, it's like a "you deserved this" look.
Yeah. It's
Yep.
definitely, it's a bit of a like Republican look.
It's maybe some foreshadowing of what's to come.
I mean,
Because all Stephanie's doing at this point, she's just sitting in class.
yeah,
Joey approaches her. She hasn't done anything.
it's true. She's literally just wearing like a shirt and some pants.
At the previously defined shirt.
I guess I did accuse her earlier of dressing for some kind of attention, which I still think that there's that desire, but I don't think that it's explicit from her. I don't think it's specifically like to get attention from boys or that she knows what she's doing, but I think there is this desire to get some kind of, I don't know.
Sure.
I would also like to just quickly insert that at 5 minutes and 33 seconds, when they come into first period, they ask LD how her summer was. And LD responds,
"Yeah, pretty good. My dad let me work on a 59 Chevy. I'm jealous."
and that's our first introduction to LD. And then the rest of the episode, she's just kind of in the background being judgmental. And I just really vibed with that. Like, she's not part of the action at all. She's not going to call anybody out, but she is going to watch. And she's just going to count down the minutes until she gets to go home and work in the garage again. And I respect that.
Yeah.
Can we also call attention to the fact that Joey is wearing like a denim vest, like a denim, like cut off vest and a fedora in our introduction to him.
Yes. The fedora.
What a look.
I mean, aside from the fedora, I am not mad at that look.
I love that look.
It's a really good look.
There are very strong contenders for what I believe are the look of the week in this episode. But we'll get to mine. We'll get to my pick.
Okay. We still have to see the rest of the looks. So while they're in class, Raditch is going into detail about their schedule, which is obviously pretty boring. So Steph and Vula continue their conversation about the election. Steph wants to be president, but can't write speeches or make posters or any of that stuff. Which I was like, Steph, have you tried?
No, she can't. She just can't.
She just can't. She hasn't tried, but she knows she can't do it.
It's super hard to make a poster with your own name on it.
Very relatable
The
to just be
hardest.
like, look, I've tried nothing and I'm all out of ideas. I don't.
She's got that can't someone do it for me attitude.
DIFM.
That will
Yeah.
take her far. So Vula wants to help and offers to be Steph's executive assistant, and she says that they'll be a team together.
I mean, I'm not sure that executive assistant and like teammates are necessarily the same thing. There's already a very strange power dynamic in this friendship because Vula has already referred to Steph as being popular, but Vula has not herself, referred to herself as being popular. And so she obviously sees Steph as kind of like, socially at least above her somehow.
Mm-hmm.
It's like working at a job that insists that you're all family here.
Mm-mm.
Yep.
Mm-mm. Yeah, and we're going to see how that plays out But
Yeah.
it, from the beginning, it seems like a very unequal power dynamic.
Right. That Vula is playing into so far.
Yeah. She wants to help her friend.
Right. And she like believes in her friend. She's kind of like, she's seeing the changes that she's making, and she's seeing the attention that she's already getting. So she's kind of like, okay, yeah, I think that you could be president. So like, let me be a part of that. And Vula gets right on it. She's all about that DIY life, and she starts making posters and flyering, while Steph starts practicing her speech and teasing her hair.
Vula writes the speech for Steph, and the demands that she puts in it are family planning, current events in class, and input into the curriculum to help control our fate as students, which Steph laughs at while she's reading it. And you just kind of realize that Steph doesn't really want to be president for any kind of, substantive reason. It's more just a popularity contest.
It's just a dumb idea she got.
When we'll see her kind of campaign promises later in the episode, and I think it's interesting to contrast those with the platform that Vula comes up with in this moment. But while Steph is laughing at it, she also starts she like considers it for a moment, and then she kind of adjusts herself, and she starts like practicing the speech in the library. And as soon as she starts reading through it, Joey and Wheels notice her and start whistling, and she kind of gets more into the speech. And Vula is not into this at all. What Steph has to offer in this moment is that she's got the confidence, and like she is practicing, like she's taking it seriously at this point. Like she is like trying to like learn the parts and stuff. But she's doing it, she's encouraged by the attention that she's getting, which is so far unrelated to the actual campaign itself.
And I think it, Joey's kind of behavior in the classroom obviously wasn't really like shut down in any way by any adult or by anyone else around them or by Steph herself. And so then now he's bringing Wheels into it. And, before we know it, there's just going to be like a mob of like pubescent boys surrounding Steph, which is just a living nightmare. But, she's kind of she obviously is enjoying the attention, and it's strange to me because Vula does seem to at times have as much contempt for the boys as she does for what Steph is doing, and then sometimes she's just like, God, Steph, why? So there's such a, to me, like kind of, I don't know, Vula's reactions to stuff are pretty interesting at a few different points, because she doesn't come out and say a lot, but she says a lot with her kind of side eye.
Mm-hmm. She has a relationship with Steph that she does not have with the boys. We don't really see her interacting with the boys at all. So Steph is sort of starting to build a relationship with them, with Joey specifically. But so far, like, Vula's only interactions are really with Steph and the other girls. All right, so now, the big day, the election rally. So this is held on the front steps of the school, and as usual, there are no adults present. So Steph gives her speech, and honestly, I felt like she nailed it.
I think she did great.
She did great, but I will note that LD was completely unimpressed. Zero reaction from LD. LD
and the beret girl, who I have no
Who
idea.
Who is that girl?
She's just there to make comments about feminism.
Okay, love her beret, love the little heart makeup on her cheek. Like, I cannot believe how good she looks, and I love her salty commentary.
I think those two, I think LD and Beret Girl are like the perfect combination of hecklers.
But I don't know if we see Beret Girl again, do we?
We will later in the episode, but I've already forgotten kind of technically what she looks like, so I don't know. If
without the beret, I'm not sure.
Without the beret, she's just a girl, so I don't know. It's like when a man shaves his beard, and I'm like, oh, you're not the same person.
All right, so Steph gives her speech, and then she runs over to Vula, and they're very excited. And so as they're talking, we're introduced to Snake, and he kind of goes next, and he starts doing his speech, which he performs as a song with an electric guitar. We didn't really get to hear much of the song, but I did catch one line that was, "To you I says, I want to be prez."
My name is Snake. Make no mistake. To you I says, I want to be prez. And quite frankly, I'm sold.
Oh,
That's all I need.
yeah, he's got my vote.
Yeah, for sure.
He-
And to me, by the way, this is my look of the week is Snake's campaign rally outfit.
So he's got like
he's
what,
my
some
pick.
printed pants? They're not like, what are those, like, not Zumbas? What are those pants called? They're not
They were
that.
called
but-
Zubas.
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 Are they Zubas? Because they looked a little more like a jogger.
I think they're just pants.
But they
Yes.
have like, in my memory, they have like an electric blue print and then some kind of black, like, I don't know, lightning bolts or squiggles or something. Am I remembering this correctly?
You are. They are a gorgeous patterned pant.
Yes.
And he has a brightly colored top. And I just think he looks exquisite. And I love that he is like a full 2 feet taller than all of the other boys in his grade. And
Yes.
his voice is like 2 octaves deeper also than all of the boys in his grade.
But there's always that kid, right?
I was always the kid with the voice 2 octaves deeper. I don't
But not like a couple feet taller than everyone else.
truly never.
None of us were ever a couple feet taller than anyone else.
No.
I am a towering 5'3" and proud. But yeah, so while Snake is performing his I don't know what you
Jammer?
call- yeah, while he is jamming on the campaign trail, that's when Joey comes up and starts really, I think, going full like Gomez Adams on Steph, and is like, he starts off by kissing her hand, goes all the way up her arm into her neck, which is like
Too intimate.
I have is it too intimate?
Yes, avoid the neck.
That's honestly the way you said that was like when people are like, support the head when there's a baby. The neck. But yeah, I mean, do you know anyone who was doing that in 8th grade? Like, I mean, I personally was not. But like, I feel like there were a lot of people who were doing a lot of making out and like neck kissing and like whatever. And I just could not fathom any amount of touching at the age of like 13.
What's so odd about it is that it's so public.
Yes.
Like, sure, maybe kids are like kissing or making out or something, but the fact that he's just doing it in front of everybody,
and these
it's
two are
literally at an election rally.
These two are not kissing because that like verb implies that it is reciprocal.
Right.
So there's also that.
Yeah,
He's just kissing her.
Yeah, it's really it's a similar equivalent to when like someone climbs a statue. Like, she is stationary and doing basically nothing, and he's just like he's just kissing her. They are not dating. They have established in no way that she's even interested in him.
He has declared himself president of the Steph fan club, but I don't know that earns you kisses.
I mean, it seems like it might.
We don't know how she feels about it. He certainly did not stop to ask for consent. And honestly, I don't know that Vula does.
Yeah, Vula tells him to stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Steph seems very fine with it.
She seems fine with it. And still, we don't know her mind. We don't know what she's thinking. And I honestly think she doesn't know what she's thinking either. She's sort of figuring all of this out as it happens.
I got from her facial acting that she was not fine with it, but she was like just going to go along with it because, this is what's happening. That was the impression I got.
I think she makes that face a few times where she's not into it, but she's going to go along with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she does.
Which I think is unfortunately common.
Yeah, I think this actress is really good at doing that kind of looking around, kind of darting eyes and looking very uncomfortable, but also trying to fit in. Like I think she does a really good job at sort of at conveying that sort of exact feeling.
Mm.
And there's a later conversation between Steph and Vula where she's sort of like, oh, you know what boys are like.
Yeah,
And so I think she's already kind of internalizing that. There's a lot of internalizing bad messages like going on.
Definitely. There's a lot of apologizing for men or like making excuses for men in this episode.
Right, like sort of holding women accountable, but not even attempting the same thing with any of the men or the boys in the episode.
Yeah, they're stupid boys.
So they're broomhead boys. So as we said, Joey comes over and starts kissing her hand, her arm, up to her neck in front of everyone, and Wheels sees this from across the steps. And he kind of shouts out that he promises to vote for her for a kiss. And she does stop before she like does anything. She kind of looks at Vula, but then immediately like turns back to Wheels and is like, okay. And thus a quid pro quo is born.
I love the like eruption. Everyone rushes to her. All the while, Snake is still just jamming. He's like totally disengaged. He like maybe even knows what's going on. He maybe sees it, but he just doesn't care. I love it.
It kind of reminds me of I haven't seen this happen so often in my like these days, but when I was first going to concerts, when like a band would be playing and then a girl would get up on someone's like shoulders and like flash her chest to the crowd.
I'm just gonna really quickly interrupt and say this is not a part of my concert going experience.
Oh, I have seen this happen at like ozzfest specifically. I used to go to ozzfest every year, and there was a lot of boob flashing going on, and so it's like it just reminded me of like when someone is like performing, but then like it's like, ooh, a girl, and like all the attention shifts.
I have personally never seen show going boobs.
No,
but I mean,
y'all were going to the wrong shows.
I went to Lillith Fair and made out with a girl during Sarah McLachlan. So
wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
So once we establish kisses for votes, all the boys come over and Steph is kind of mobbed by them, taking turns kissing her on the cheek. As we mentioned, except for Snake, who is still playing to no one and does not get any kisses and probably votes for himself. Actually, you know what? It makes sense. He's not going to kiss for a vote because he's probably going to vote for himself in the election.
Yeah, what's his motivation?
Yeah.
I think also, I mean, maybe Snake is like a very shrewd politician. Maybe he knows, he can see that Steph has the boy vote. But maybe he's like, well, maybe if I don't sink down to this, I can get the girl vote.
And the girls are mad. They are mad about this scene. I think they call it sexist, which I'm not sure. Do you think it's sexist?
Beret Girl calls it pre-feminist.
Oh.
Twice.
I like that better. I thought I heard sexism. Maybe I heard it wrong.
Oh, no. I would not doubt that someone also said sexist. I only wrote down pre-feminist, but pre-feminist.
So what is post-feminism? Do you think we will get there in Degrassi?
In Degrassi?
Yeah.
Yes, I think I know exactly the plot.
Okay, remember this.
Yeah,
remember this for the future.
Pretty sure it's like season 14.
Perfect.
We
Put a
enter,
pin in it.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that in about 10 years.
So I think, did y'all also have a moment here of being concerned about, this is the first sort of escalation I think that we see in terms of like the boys and their interactions with Steph.
I mean, I'm always concerned about men, but I think, yeah, this is kind of This is the first, I mean, actually, no, this is like the third instance now where someone is feeling entitled to Stephanie's body. You know,
Yes.
Joey comes up to her in class, then he comes up to her after this speech, and then all of these other boys are like rushing up and they're all feeling very entitled to her personal space and her body. And yeah, I think again, because we're so conditioned by teen dramas that came much later to anticipate the darkness, I was just like, oh God, what is gonna happen? Is she gonna get like assaulted in the bathroom? Like, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And anything could happen, but it's Degrassi Junior High, so they stayed firmly with Kisses for Votes.
I
Mhm.
appreciate that they like kept it on, like, not to sound callous, but they kept it on topic. Like they didn't like
Right.
their lack of escalation kind of made sure that the episode just moved forward with exactly what they were trying to say rather than making it horrible, which it easily could have been.
Or making it seem like, oh, now she's being punished for like
Mm.
allowing this. And which is like, none of these things are her idea. She doesn't initiate any of this, but yet the girls direct all of their kind of disgust at this situation on her just for agreeing to it. But like, she didn't come up with like this idea, like Wheels did.
Almost pre-feminist, if you will.
Yeah, who's the real pre-feminist?
And I
Beret
think
girl.
you know, I think a lot of the way that some of these plots ended up going had a lot to do with the fact that before these seasons were shot, Linda Schuyler and Yan Moore would bring all the actors together and they would do read-throughs of these scripts, and then the actors were actually able to be like, actually someone our age wouldn't really do that, or
Mm.
oh, I think this is actually really accurate, but we could maybe take it here or there. And they did a lot of these kind of like seminars where they all got together and read through these scripts and like fed back and gave a lot of ideas for how certain things might be handled, because they were obviously of the age that they were portraying, and so they had
Right.
it sounds like a lot more autonomy over what their characters did. And obviously they didn't I don't think that they had the like veto power of like, well, I don't want to do that, but I think they were able to help shape the way that some of these things turned out.
I think that you can see that too, because it did not feel like an after school special. It felt like very authentic. Like you could see how any of these things could happen and how these situations could escalate, and you know how people would have these reactions. It did all feel very like authentic to being that age. And it is, you know, it's like it's taking place in the 80s, and so obviously like we sort of grew up then, but we mostly grew up in the 90s. So it's a little bit, some of it might be a little bit different for us just because it's not our experience. Or even like with the divorced parents, I think the 80s was when there was a lot of parents like getting divorced, and like that was a very new experience. And so seeing so this may, like today we maybe would see Stephanie sort of like, she could start changing her look just because, and it could also be a reaction to like her parents getting divorced and things that are like going on at home. Like,
Yeah,
we don't know.
and I think maybe in a newer kind of teen drama, they might delve into why she's going through a lot of those changes, but instead they just open up the whole series with this change, and that's the only Stephanie that we know.
Right. And I don't want to portray it as if like I'm thinking that these are bad changes for her, but it's just like not clear what her motivations are.
Yeah.
Other than wanting to be more mature.
And that may even just be the only motivation, I guess, because I think that
right.
I guess we all kind of at different points in our lives have, you know, especially in like middle school and high school, we kind of are like, okay, well, how can I evolve? How can I mature? How can I grow up?
And who do I want to be? Like, that's when you start to have more control over what you look like, what you believe in. Like, so maybe it's just also her way of just kind of taking ownership of like herself and who she is. And even with like changing her name, like it's a very specific decision.
It's very feminist.
Yes, it is not pre-feminist, it is feminist. So back in the girls' bathroom, Vula is getting very concerned about the direction of the campaign, but Stephanie keeps kind of like sweet talking her to get her to like continue on as her executive assistant. Oh, and so while they're inside the bathroom talking, the boys are all waiting outside of the bathroom for Stephanie to come out, chanting "We Wanna Kiss" and "All the Way with Stephanie K," which, that last one is definitely gonna stick.
That really escalated. And also we kind of start to see that Stephanie is sort of starting to value Joey's advice over Vula's, and Stephanie is telling Vula, Joey says that we need to give the people what they want, and that all the guys are voting for me. So I because Vula's saying, well, the girls don't like this. They don't like what you're doing. And Stephanie's just like, well, as long as all the guys vote for me, it doesn't really matter, because the girl vote will be split voting for all the other guys.
Right.
Stephanie discovers electoral politics, and the rest is history.
Yeah, man.
And
she learns about third-party voting.
Vula does, she's the only one to directly talk to Stephanie about what's happening. So the other girls are talking about her to each other, but Vula sort of approaches her as like, hey, here's how I'm feeling, here's how the other girls are feeling. And exactly, but Steph is sort of like, well, Joey's telling me this other thing, and I'm getting all the girls are mad at her at this point, but she's getting all this like attention from the boys, so she's kind of like, I do have a strategy, and my strategy is with the boys.
I mean, you have to hand it to Vula, like throughout this entire episode, she doesn't really pull any punches. She's just kind of like, this is a bad idea.
Yeah, she's saying how she feels. And kind of being dismissed, but still trying to support her friend.
Yeah.
Up until we exit the bathroom.
Oh man.
So
this is such a moment.
And I don't know what this, like if this was pre-planned or what. All the boys are just sort of waiting for her, and so Steph comes out of the bathroom and she makes some campaign promises, and so which include rock on the PA, more dances, and co-ed swimming.
To which, by the way, then we see, what is his name? Shane, who we haven't technically formally met yet. Shane's like, oh, I'd like to see Steph in a bikini. And then Wheels is like, I want to see her, like, basically starts telling her to take off her clothes.
Without a bikini.
Without a bikini. Yeah. I couldn't
and then
remember
they
if he said,
move
like, I
on
wanna see her
to,
naked.
yeah, take it all
Take it
off.
off.
Take
Yeah.
it off. Let's see. Yeah, want to see Steph in a bikini. Without a bikini. Want to see Steph take it off. And then want to see Steph take it all off.
And then Joey says, vote for Stephanie K, and who's to say
Who's
what'll
to
happen?
say?
Which is just very
Disturbing.
bad. It's just, and like, poor Vula is just like, damn, I just wanted to talk about current events.
Yeah, Vula put together a very thoughtful platform, like clearly put a very substantive platform, and now they've moved on to Steph's portion, which is all just like kind of like nonsense. Empty
Absolute
promises.
nonsense. I mean, and it's all the kind of promises that a middle school or high school president would make that they can't really deliver on, right? Like it's not something that she's going to go to the PTA and negotiate about, more control over the curriculum or some kind of democratic process. I'm sure Vula had like several plans for how she would implement some of her ideas. And Steph's just like, we're going to do co-ed swimming.
And while the boys are kind of shouting all these things, Stephanie has the same, like, her face is sort of like, I don't know about this, but I'm gonna, like, go along with it. And then she decides to thank her very good friend. We see Vula, like, getting ready to be thanked, But no, she thanks Joey Jeremiah, and Vula is over it and storms off unthanked and very upset.
I mean, Stephanie wasn't going to let that who's to say what'll happen comment just slide without some thanks, you know? Like,
Yeah, thanks so much for that thought.
Thank you for bringing all of this very casual sexual harassment into my life.
And
the
escalating.
election. Yeah, and escalating it. Thank you.
Yeah.
And it's really crazy because when she thanks Joey, she says she wants to thank someone who's been there since the beginning and, you know, who's done lots of work and been a wonderful friend. And so you're just kind of like, oh, come on.
Yeah, none of those things describe Joey at all.
Vula, first of all, Joey has introduced himself in homeroom. So, like, they clearly were not very well acquainted. But also, like, we didn't really touch on this before. They do sort of a bit of a montage of, like, all of the posters going up. Every single one of those posters was an original. They didn't do any photocopies. So Vula was just sitting there, like, doing
with
bubble
their
lettering.
stencil.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
They were clearly stenciled. Yeah, so I was like, how many of these did she make?
Like, so many. So many. And
snakes were not stenciled.
No, snakes were not stenciled. Snakes were gorgeous. I'll definitely be screen grabbing that and putting that on our Instagram. But one thing that was really interesting, so they shot Degrassi Junior High in a real school, and the ground floor was a functioning middle school. The outside and then the top floor were where they shot the show. And so they had one hallway. And what they did was, between scenes, they would just rearrange the lockers and change what was on the walls to make it look like a different hallway. But every single hallway shot on that show was one hallway. And so, like, even all these shots of them going and, like, sticking all of these posters up would have had to require them changing up this hallway kind of scenery just to do this montage. And I just kept thinking about, like, how how many times they must have had to change that to show her putting all of these posters up.
Well, and then so maybe there weren't actually that many posters if they were just moving them to different locations.
We should, I would like to go back and maybe do a count. I should have been counting.
Posters.
It really feels like something I would do. Vula storms off, and I think very reasonably upset.
Yes.
And then we cut to the polling station, don't we?
Yes, the actual election, which is taking place in the hallway and is finally being monitored by an adult.
I would like to call attention to the utilitarian realness of the ballot box and the polling station setup. It is 3 desks that are pushed together with a banner on them that just says Election Day. And then there's just like a literal box with like a hole cut in the top, and everyone's putting their ballots in.
Not even like vote here.
Yeah, it's such a far cry from like later, very polished Degrassi elections that I really love that kind of, like, because I feel like if I was voting in a middle school election, that would very much be the polling station.
Of course. You would use like a free period or something to like put together the poster. You're not like paying for someone to print a poster for you or something.
And then also, if you notice during this voting scene, all of the girls are wearing Vote Snake kind of bits of paper that are taped to their shirts.
Did not notice that.
I would have liked to see more of Snake's campaign process. Did Snake have an executive assistant? Was he doing it all himself? I loved a lot of his ideas. Would have been interesting to see a little bit more there. After the election, we head back to Radich's class, and the winner of the presidency is announced over the PA, and Stephanie K has gone all the way to the presidency. So Joey gets really excited, and he jumps out of his seat and comes over to give her a hug, and Radich tells him, "Not in my class, save it for the pool room."
I'm not even sure.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
Are these kids hanging out at a pool hall and hugging?
Smoking cigars.
That's the
Yeah,
only place you can hug.
But he didn't even say inappropriate or anything like that. He's just like, save it for another time. Like, just scolding, but no real guidance.
Well,
from
look,
Raditch
boys
here.
will be boys, so I mean, there's nothing he can really do about it.
That's true.
Yes, of course.
That's true.
Kids are gonna have sex no matter what, so you just have to get them to not do it at school.
Just make sure they're saving it for the pool room.
Yeah.
Actually, sure.
Yeah. Or someone's uncle's like rumpus room in the basement.
That sounds more likely. I don't know. Maybe these kids maybe there's a lot of pool hall activity.
There's like red shag carpeting. You know, and like
smoky.
a texture.
This is before smoking was banned indoors. I mean, I guess I don't know in Canada. I don't know what they're getting up to. So after class, Steph is approached by her new vice president, Susie with a Z, who starts talking about all the work that they'll be doing. And Steph is kind of like, but I have plans? Like, she truly has not considered what happens after you're elected president, which, sort of reminds me of someone else we know.
Any current leaders that we're familiar with?
Don't worry, we won't mention them on the pod, but
I love that Susie just immediately can tell that Stephanie is full of shit, though.
Oh, I do love that.
It's beautiful.
Her face.
She brings up the co-ed swimming, and she's like, my parents are not gonna like that.
And she keeps like name dropping. She's like, you got to go see, was it Doris, the school superintendent?
Yeah.
She's like,
the secretary, I think.
Secretary.
Yeah.
She's
Okay.
like intentionally name dropping just to hear Steph be like, wait, who?
But I'm also like, Steph, you've been at this school for a year. How do you not know who Doris is? You've clearly been in the office.
She was overseeing the election. She was sitting there. She was standing there
Yeah,
while the kids were voting.
She was the only adult involved in the entire election process.
Oh, Doris.
So Susie sends her to the school secretary, Doris, who I also did not remember her name. So much like Stephanie K, I was like, who tells her about a speech that she'll have to give to the PTA next week, but offers no details on what the content of the speech will be. And, I thought perhaps this is why Stephanie K has no idea how to write a speech. Maybe no one has shared any actual information with her.
Yeah, it seems like if there was some kind of like election information pack, she would not have picked it up.
Yeah.
That's true.
Vula would have.
That's true.
Yeah, I feel like I might agree with you, but just generally, Stephanie is not going to know what she's doing no matter what the circumstances are.
But also, do we really expect an 8th grader to just like address the PTA in like the second week of school?
Kind of intense.
Yeah.
I mean, she can just use her previous like kisses for, votes kind of.
Yeah, kiss the school board.
Platform.
Yeah, they love that.
She runs into Joey, and did you name this other kid before? Did you say his name is Shane?
Shane may or may I didn't take a screen grab of who was in the scene, but if
There's
it's the kid who said he wanted to see her in a bikini, then it's Shane. But I didn't think that Shane was with him in this scene.
Some kid in a stripy
Some
shirt.
kid.
A kid.
Some kid who loves bullying grade 7s. So they're kind of bullying Arthur again and trying to shove him into a locker, but Steph comes across them and she's like, she tells them to stop and to leave him alone. And Joey's kind of like, he's like, this kid, like, so they kind of get into it. She doesn't reveal that they're siblings, but she does try to help Arthur out. So we see that she does have a little bit of heart and concern for her brother. She changes the subject.
She'll do the bare minimum.
The bare minimum. She's like, shoving in a locker, that's too far. So she tries to sort of change the subject and tells Joey that she's looking for Vula because she needs to write her PTA speech. But Joey offers to help instead because he knows lots about talking. And he gives her the following advice to start with a joke, something like, "Hello, ladies and germs," And to end with another joke, and it doesn't really matter what you say in between.
This is like Michael Scott, like the blueprint of like Michael Scott speech writing.
Yes.
I thought immediately of the Parks and Rec episode where Andy and April get married, and Jean-Ralphio tells Tom Haverford how to give a best man speech, and he's just like, you start with a joke, and then like it goes into like, you know, a Vince Vaughn reference and like all this other stuff.
I love that the joke that we are given as an example is "Hello, ladies and germs," which I believe an 8th grader in the 80s might consider a joke.
It is what I would qualify as a greeting.
Yes, I did consider it for the opening of this podcast, but I feel like we've kind of moved beyond the gender norms of ladies and germs. So I felt like it wasn't inclusive enough for our purposes.
The two genders, ladies and germs.
Germs. It's a little too relevant.
So after this moment is when Stephanie finds Vula in the stairwell and they finally have it out.
Wait! You used me. I thought you'd be grateful. I helped make the posters. I wrote your speech. I am grateful. Sure. And that's why you thanked Joey. Oh, that. Sorry, but, you know. No, I don't. Come on, Vula. We're in grade 8 now. Boys like that sort of thing. So do girls. So do best friends. But that's okay, because I don't want to be your friend anymore. You can have your stupid bracelet. You're just a baby, a selfish baby. Vula, wait! You're on your own, Miss President. You and your new image.
They really go there.
It's a big fight feel in the stairwell.
I mean, Vula really cuts a promo on Steph here. But the worst name she calls her is Selfish Baby. I'm like, oh, Vula, you're so innocent.
I was kind of like happy that that's as far as she went, because I feel like if we were watching this in like 2003, Vula would have immediately been like, you're a slut. So I really like that she didn't lean into that aspect of it. She was sticking with like centering herself and like how her thanking Joey made her feel, and like, here's the work that I put in and that's what you did. Good for Vula.
Yeah.
And I think it further illustrates the divide that's growing between them, because calling someone a baby is very, like, that's the name calling of someone in, like, elementary school. It's, like, very juvenile. It's not very, like, harsh or anything in the way that, like, a teenager might use language that's, like, a little more rough.
Definitely.
But essentially, you know, Steph still has the audacity to ask for help writing this PTA speech. And Vula tells her, you know, you're on your own, Miss President, you and your new image, and throws the bracelets onto the steps and storms off again.
A very powerful moment,
yes,
in my opinion.
Yes.
I mean, I would personally never have the guts to do that.
Yeah.
No.
But also, I like how when she sees Vula, she doesn't even say hi. She just immediately jumps into, Vula, I need your help. You know what I mean? It's not like, Vula, hi, how are you?
She does not care about this girl.
No.
And maybe she is a baby in that way. I'm like, does baby make sense here? She's sort of like, I can't do it myself. Do it for me. Wah.
Yeah, I guess, she is kind of a baby.
We also are shown the beautiful blue snake for Prez sign that I need in my life.
Legitimately, if this does not become part of like our podcast merch, I will be devastated.
Oh, we'll monetize this.
I wish we got like a sad snake like walking around in the background. Like, how did he feel about losing the election? He clearly was putting in his own effort.
Yeah.
I feel
He
like
just got jobbed out.
Yeah.
True.
He did his best, and I think that he is respecting the results.
Yeah.
You know,
that's true.
sometimes you just can't compete with a hot girl, and it's a lesson that we all have to learn.
I learn that lesson every day.
Okay, so after the fight in the stairwell, any additional thoughts on this fight in the stairwell?
I think I've said what I had to say.
Okay. Just want to make sure everyone's feeling fully, heard in this moment. I don't want to have any Vula-Steph confrontations of our own. So after school, Arthur is waiting for Steph, and he's hiding behind a tree to making sure that no one is around before he like calls out her name, and he even says that to her, like, don't worry, no one's around. So he's trying to like respect her desire to hide their relationship, which is like sad and like kind of sweet, and like very much like a little brother kind of would put up with that kind of abuse from their older sister.
I would just like to note that before she comes out and sees Arthur, she's in the bathroom taking off her makeup with a dry cotton ball.
Oh yes.
Doing absolutely nothing.
I was also like, girl, you gotta put some Vaseline or at least some water on there. Like,
yeah,
come on.
soap and water. And she's like talking to herself and just being like, I can give this speech and I just wish I had someone to help me. And it's just like,
pep talk.
Well, yeah, I'm just like, man, come on. Like,
it makes you wonder if in the morning when she was talking with Vula in the bathroom, would she have just had the exact same conversation with herself if Vula wasn't there?
Yes. Yeah.
And she's she has to brush out her teased hair also.
Which is still huge. And I have so much respect for that.
I
wish I had that kind of volume.
I've never understood how to achieve that level of volume with my own hair, and I was also impressed. But yeah, so she kind of she's taking off, she's putting back on her kind of oversized clothing. She's taking off her makeup, brushing out her hair. She's getting ready to go home. And this is when Arthur finds her. And this sweet boy who has just spent his first day of school or whatever, the first week, like being bullied, he asks her how she's doing.
Being bullied, by the way, by the guy who she's been hanging around with all week, who she could have, if she had any like confidence at all, could have stepped in and been like, listen, this guy is my brother, stop picking on him. Or if nothing,
yeah, she did the bare minimum. And
even then it was just kind of like, ugh, Joey, you know what I mean? It wasn't really like what are you doing? This is not cool. It was just like, come on.
Like, would she have cared if it was some other kid? Like, she only seemed to care because it was her brother,
who she still refuses to publicly
acknowledge. Yes.
Which I hate for Arthur. I really love Arthur. I think he's so great.
Arthur. Well, we'll talk more about Arthur later on in the series. We'll get to see a little bit more from Arthur.
Yeah.
But he's just one of those kids who's just like an adult from the moment they're born.
He's a sweatpants kid, though. He's a little bit of a sweatpants kid.
Just a kind-hearted sweatpants kid.
Can relate.
Oh yeah, you were the sweatpants kid.
Can relate.
I really identified with Vula. I feel like I have been the victim of like a social climbing blonde girl many times. And I have always been left behind. And I think in middle school there were several conversations about how like I didn't really want to, sneak out of sleepovers to go see boys or whatever. I was like, why can't we just hang out? And so I was kind of the Vula. But I mean, not in like a being raised in any kind of like conservative household sort of way, just in this kind of friendship dynamic.
Yeah.
But then also just like a little bit of Arthur. It's like I was in this episode, I'm like a Vula sun and an Arthur rising. And maybe like an LD moon.
So far, I don't think I really relate to anyone yet. Maybe the girl in the beret, but I haven't really found myself represented thus far. So I hope we get to see a little bit more from her. I definitely would not have been like campaigning for president. I tended to dress like more like a boy than sort of dressing like super femme. I was not gonna be out there writing speeches for anyone or offering to do anything more than was required of me, like Vula. So I really feel like thus far I've not been represented.
We'll get there with you. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
We'll get there. How about you, Paul?
Yeah, I'm definitely a combination of Arthur and Yick. I just.
We didn't talk about Yick. So Yick makes kind of a brief appearance.
Which also makes me feel like I identify with him a little bit more. But yeah, the friend to Arthur who actually helps him find his way and figure out where his classes are and all that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also their bond is so quick. Like if they were rescue dogs, they would be like a bonded pair.
They have to adopt them together.
Yeah, they immediately within the first week of school have walkie-talkies and a full map of the school so that they can let each other know where Joey Jeremiah is currently located so that they can avoid him and being bullied by him. And I'm just like, that is solidarity. That is like an ingenuity. I think it's great.
They're creating their own. Yeah, we actually didn't even like talk about that. It was pretty inconsequential to the rest of the episode.
Yeah.
But that they're sort of building their own like separate world. So whereas Stephanie is sort of trying to be the center of things, they're sort of on the outside of things and also trying to strategically avoid drawing too much attention to themselves because the attention that they're getting from the same people paying attention to Stephanie, they're getting the negative attention from that because they are not hot girls.
I mean,
they're getting small nerds.
Sweatpants kids for life.
They're getting the other side of the kind of toxic masculinity coin.
Yes.
So like on one side, you've got that kind of like performative alpha male bullying, and then on the other side you've got again very performative like sexual harassment and like entitlement of women's bodies.
Yes. And even their own bodies. They're pushing him, shoving him into lockers. Like Joey is really just like not respecting anybody's personal space.
And then, Arthur still offers to help Stephanie write this speech.
Yes, and he was class valedictorian last year, and his teacher noted that his speech was perceptive and witty.
In 6th grade.
I believe it. Hearing Arthur speak, I believe it.
I love the idea of a 6th grade valedictorian. Yeah, I guess from this sort of, Stephanie agreeing sort of reluctantly to let Arthur help her with this speech after she tells him no, and then he's they go their separate ways, and then she stops and turns around and does the very kind of like romantic comedy thing of like wait. But I wonder then if she is going to get help from him at home, is she going to then acknowledge him in public? And then the other thing I think about here is that she seems to expect a lot from people in her life who she then kind of keeps in the shadows and doesn't really publicly acknowledge. And she just expects those people to prop her up and keep her going so that she can achieve what she wants.
She found like a second-rate Vula in her brother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. She's just looking for someone who will do what she wants.
Gross.
Well, so what do you think Arthur and Vula are getting out of this exchange then? Because they're offering to help.
I mean, I think with Vula, she thought it was going to be like a fun teamwork, best friend sort of activity, and then got burned and was pretty quick to get out. But with Arthur, I think it's like, oh, well, maybe this is a way I can prove to my sister that I'm mature enough, to interact with her.
And to just like spend some time with her.
Yeah. Outside of school, just doing something that, they both like. I mean, she likes being president and he likes to write speeches.
I mean, and he probably likes to hang out with his older sister. I think there's a lot of that kind of sibling dynamic like going on.
Definitely.
And she tells him she needs him, and he's like, "You need me?"
Oh, Arthur.
Buddy.
Pal.
And then the episode ends with a freeze frame on Stephanie's face.
Oh, I love those freeze frames. I love them so much.
So, friends, what did we learn from this episode?
Well, as someone who identified with Arthur, I learned that sometimes you gotta take your lumps. If I'm assuming the identity of Arthur, I'm not sure if I agreed with his choice at the end here, but sometimes you gotta take your lumps and just roll with it, so that you can still be there for the people in your life that need a little extra help.
And I will say, he does have a different relationship. He knows Steph probably better than anybody. This is his sister. And so those moments of kindness when she tells Joey to leave him alone, when she's like, okay, yes, she doesn't just agree to take his help, but she says, I need you. So those are probably like pretty meaningful moments for him.
For me, with this episode, because I really sort of identified with Vula, I think it's important to set boundaries and stand up for yourself, even when that feels hard, and even when it might mean saying goodbye to a friend, or having to change something about your life, because now Vula, who in this episode has said that Steph is her best friend, has said she doesn't want to be her friend anymore, and she's now going to have to navigate middle school with some kind of different social structure and a different support structure than what she had for 7th grade. And so I'm just thinking about how important that is to learn early on, because I think that girls are often socialized to just kind of be mean to each other and put up with it, and or just have huge fights. I don't know, but I think that Vula really kind of teaches us all a lesson about like standing firm in ourselves.
Right, because I think we can tell how things would have evolved without that confrontation. It would have just kept happening, that she kept trying to help Steph in like various situations, and Steph would just keep taking her for granted. So at the very least, like, Vula is trying to like, advocate for herself. And she also had bonded with the other girls, it seemed like more than Steph did. So in some ways, Steph is sort of isolating herself here.
It's true. Vula actually does seem to have a lot of friends.
Yeah. Like throughout the episode, she's kind of talking to more people than Steph is pretty much primarily talking to like Joey and the other boys.
Yikes.
And he does not seem like a good replacement best friend. I'm gonna
Absolutely
go ahead and
not.
say. But the classic like boy who's like, yeah, I'm your friend, but I'm trying to date you.
I can't relate too heavily to that, but I've heard it's uncomfortable to experience.
Not a good feeling.
What did you learn today, Mary?
so I learned that if you campaign on kisses, you are likely to win. But you're also gonna have to actually do a boring job, and now you've been kissed by a bunch of dumb boys at school.
Oh no. Yeah. That's real.
I think what truly won the campaign for Steph was the initial platform that Vula provided, along with her own. So she kind of had the style and the presentation down, but Vula had like the substance. And I think that that's actually what made her a good candidate. I don't know, maybe the boys did just vote for her because of the kisses. We'll never know. But it seemed like, you know, her speech was a lot more serious than Snake's, for example. So, like, she was actually, like, learning something from this episode. She's, like, doing public speaking. She's doing all of these things. But I think she wasn't she definitely took for granted the friend that wanted to help her because she believed in her versus the friend who's just kind of trying to, like, jump on the bandwagon and is not giving her the most, like, thoughtful advice. So I don't know that Stephanie learned a lot necessarily, but watching how everything played out, you can just see, like, the connection that she made with Joey is not going to be as fulfilling as the connection that she may have lost with Vula. And so by, you know, kind of putting herself in this position, she's, like, sort of, in the long run, like, hurt herself, which she may not see now, but, like, I'm sure will become clear to her in the near future.
Okay, that was way better than mine.
All right, so we learned a lot today. And that is it for Kiss Me Steph. And next week we will be watching The Big Dance.